My husband and I had agreed on one thing very clearly. We were not telling anyone about the pregnancy until after the first trimester. Not his coworkers. Not my friends. And definitely not his mother. But life doesn't really care about your timelines. Especially not when your uterus decides to play Russian roulette. And my mother-in-law. She didn't care about our boundaries on a good day. So the day she announced my miscarriage in the middle of a family dinner, like she was giving the weather report, something in me broke. Unfortunately for her, she'd forgotten that I knew about the one thing she didn't want announced. Her affair. I'm Rachel. I'm 29, married to Daniel, and I used to think monster-in-law jokes were exaggerated. Then I met Linda. Linda is the kind of woman who has a Pinterest board for every holiday and an opinion for every life choice that isn't her own. She introduces herself as just a simple Southern mama, but she runs her household with a CEO with a drinking problem. When Daniel and I got engaged, she cried. Not happy tears. Losing my baby boy. Tears. At our wedding, she wore a white sequin dress that looked suspiciously bridal. When I gently suggested beforehand that she pick a different color, she said, "Oh honey, no one could ever mistake me for the bride." I swallowed a lot with Linda. Tiny cuts. Comments about my job, my clothes, our apartment. Daniel saw it. He pushed back sometimes. But like a lot of men raised by strong personalities, his default was, keep the peace. So I picked my battles. The pregnancy felt like one we needed to own. Ours, not hers. We'd been trying for almost a year. Tracking cycles, peeing on sticks, smiling through baby showers I wanted to walk out of. When the test finally came back positive, I cried in our tiny bathroom and Daniel hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "We'll tell everyone after 12 weeks, he said. "We just hold it close for now." I nodded. My doctor agreed. "Given your history of endometriosis, we watch the first trimester carefully," she said. "Early miscarriage risk is higher. If something happens, you want to choose who knows and how." It turned out I didn't get that choice. I miscarried at 9 weeks. It started with spotting. Then cramps. Then blood that made my heart drop. By the time we got to the ER, I already knew. The ultrasound confirmed it. "I'm sorry," the tech said quietly. "There's no heartbeat." I don't remember much after that. Just the blur of tissues and discharge papers. The ride home in silence. Lying in bed with an emptiness inside me that had nothing to do with anatomy. We told my parents. Over FaceTime. They cried with us. Sent DoorDash gift cards. Didn't push. "Tell people when you're ready," my mom said. "It's your story." We told Linda later. Daniel wanted to wait. I agreed. For about 2 days. But the thing about hiding grief is that it leaks out. When she called and asked, "When are you two going to give me a grandbaby?" For the 14th time, I snapped. "Linda," I said, voice flat, "we were pregnant. We lost it this week?" Silence. She said, "Well, at least you know you can get pregnant." I closed my eyes. "There will be other chances," she added. "Maybe if you'd rested more." "Mom," he said sharply. "No, don't go there." She sighed. "You know I'm just worried," she said. "This is why you should let family in. So we can pray? We're telling you now." "That's enough?" "Of course," she said. "This is between us." Between us. Right? 2 weeks later, she hosted Sunday dinner. The big one. Once a month, all the siblings and partners and cousins gathered at her house to eat too much and pretend we were a sitcom family. I didn't want to go. The idea of being around toddlers and pregnancy talk made my stomach twist, but Daniel squeezed my hand. "We'll stay for an hour," he said. "Then fake a headache and bail." I agreed. Against my better judgment. Linda greeted us at the door with a too-tight hug. "There's my girl," she said. "You look pale. Are you taking your vitamins?" I forced a smile. "We're fine," I said. "Thanks for having us." The table was full. Daniel's brother Mark and his wife. His sister Jenna and her boyfriend. Linda, his dad, 2 cousins, and a 3-year-old niece who insisted on showing everyone her Barbie. Dinner started normal enough. Roast. Potatoes. Linda's famous green beans. Halfway through, she cleared her throat. "Before we dig into dessert," she said, standing with her wine glass, "I just want to say something as the matriarch of this family." Daniel stiffened next to me. "So many of us are blessed," she went on. "Mark and Ashley with little Sophie, Jenna with her promotion, and my Danny and Rachel here," she gestured toward us, "who have been walking through a very hard season." My heart started pounding. "What are you doing?" I whispered. Daniel's hand tightened on my leg. Linda sighed dramatically. "They recently lost a baby," she said. "A little angel we never got to meet." The table went silent. Forks paused mid-air. My eyes blurred. I just think it's important we all know so we can lift them up. Linda continued. These things don't happen for no reason. Sometimes God is telling us to slow down, to take better care of ourselves. Rachel's been so busy at that job, staying up late drinking that Starbucks. Mom, Daniel said, voice low. Stop. I'm just saying, she said. Buddies can only handle so much. Losing a child is tragic, but it can also be a wake-up call. Every word landed like a slap. It wasn't just that she shared something intimate without our consent. It was the way she twisted it. Turned my loss into a morality tale. An object lesson. A chance to blame me. I felt everyone's eyes on us. Mark looked uncomfortable. Ashley mouthed, I'm so sorry. Jenna frowned at her plate. I stood up, my chair scraped loudly. Excuse me? I said. Daniel started to stand too. Linda reached for my hand. Sweetheart, we're here for you, she said. You don't have to be ashamed. I looked at her fingers on my wrist. Shame wasn't what I felt. Rage was. Rage and something colder. Because Linda had forgotten something in all her grandstanding. I knew 3 of her secrets. Normal ones. The 4th was bigger, and sitting in my phone, in a folder marked, Insurance. 6 months before the miscarriage, I'd been at Linda's house helping her make appetizers for a church fundraiser. She'd stepped out to take a call. The family iPad was on the counter, propped up to show her Pinterest board. A text banner popped up at the top. From Jim. Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you in that red dress. Same time next week. I blinked. Another one arrived. Make sure you delete our thread. Wouldn't want Pastor Tom seeing our choir practice. Choir practice. Linda's choir director at church. Jim. Married. 2 teenage kids. I stared shocked. Then, because humans are messy and I am not a saint, I tapped the banner. The Messages app opened. A long thread of texts scrolled up. Flirty. Explicit, in that middle-aged euphemism way. References to hotel rooms after Bible study. Can't wait to feel your hands on me again. I told Greg I joined a women's prayer group. He bought it. Greg. Daniel's dad, my father-in-law. The man who doted on Linda. Took her on cruises. Worked overtime so she could focus on the home. I felt like I'd swallowed a rock. My instinct was to close it. Pretend I hadn't seen. This wasn't my business. Adult lives are complicated. I'd almost hit the home button when a phrase caught my eye. We have to be quieter next time. Rachel almost walked in last time and asked if I needed help with dishes. My stomach flipped. She was talking about me. Last time. Had been 2 weeks earlier. When I'd offered to help clean up after Sunday dinner and Linda. Saying she and a friend. Needed to go over choir music. The friend. Jim? Suddenly, I wasn't just a bystander. I was an unwitting accomplice. I took 3 screenshots on reflex. Then felt guilty. Then felt justified. I stored them in a hidden album on my phone. And I told exactly no one. Because as messed up as it wasn't my place. Until Linda made my trauma her dinner theater monologue. Back at that table, with everyone staring. Something in me snapped into terrifying focus. Linda wants honesty. The evil little voice in my head said, let's give her some. I gently removed her hand from my wrist. Actually, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, I am ashamed of something. Daniel looked at me alarmed. Rack, he started. I squeezed his hand. Not about the miscarriage, I said. That was not my fault. Or God's wake-up call. Eyes widened. Then what are you ashamed of? Linda asked, all fox concern. That I went along with your version of family for so long, I said. That I kept quiet when I saw things I shouldn't have. Like your texts. Her face drained of color. What texts? She asked. I pulled out my phone. Took a breath. I helped you make food before the Christmas fundraiser, I said. You left your iPad on the counter. A message popped up from Jim. I mimicked her texting cadence as I read from my saved screenshot. Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you in that red dress. Same time next week. The table went dead silent. Jenna's fork clattered. Greg, my father-in-law, sat very still. Rachel, Linda hissed. That's private. So was my uterus, I said. Yet here we are. I scrolled. Read another. Make sure you delete our thread. Wouldn't want Pastor Tom seeing our choir practice. Ashley sucked in a breath. Greg's jaw clenched. Linda stood up so fast her chair tipped. How dare you, she said, voice shaking. You have no right to snoop through my messages. You left them open, I said. And I looked away, until I saw my name. You joked to your boyfriend about me almost walking in on you, in my own kitchen, while your husband was upstairs setting out plates. Greg stood slowly. Is this true? Linda, he asked quietly. You're going to believe her over me? She demanded. She's clearly unstable, she just lost. Answer the question, he said. The calm in his tone was scarier than any yelling. She faltered. "They're just texts," she said. "Stupid flirting. Jim and I are friends. Pastor Tom encourages us to support each other." "Support each other at the Holiday Inn?" Jenna asked, eyes blazing. "I never," Linda began. "Mom," Daniel cut in, voice low and shaking. "I've seen those messages too." My head whipped toward him. "You have?" I asked. He nodded, eyes on his mom. "You left your phone on the counter one night and went to the bathroom," he said. Jim texted. I saw enough. I didn't know how to bring it up. I was hoping it was a phase. Or that you'd stop. Linda looked like she'd been slapped. "You both spied on me," she whispered. "You both cheated on Dad." Daniel shot back. "There's spying, and then there's dealing with fallout." Greg stared at the table. "Is there more?" he asked Rachel, not looking at his wife. I swallowed. "There's a lot of it," I said. "Months. Maybe years." I didn't mention the hotel references. The "can't wait till the retreat when we have our own room" line. I didn't need to. The implication was enough. Linda's hands shook. "You're humiliating me," she said. "You're in front of my own family. Over a few messages. Like you humiliated Rachel," Ashley said quietly. "Over something she didn't choose." Linda turned on her. "You stay out of this," she snapped. "You're barely part of this family?" Mark bristled. "Hey," he said. "You don't get to say that?" Greg took a deep breath. "Everyone leave?" he said. We all froze. "What?" Lynn heard me. He said. "Dinner's over. Kids, take your families and go. I need to talk to my wife. Alone." His voice left no room for argument. Chairs scraped. Plates filed out like people leaving a funeral. Outside on the porch, Daniel grabbed my hand. "Are you okay?" he asked. "No," I said honestly. "But I'm done pretending I am so your mother can feel comfortable." He looked at me for a long moment. Then nodded. "Thank you," he said softly, "for saying what I should have said months ago." We drove home in silence. I half expected my phone to explode. It didn't. Not that night. Not the next day. The group text Linda usually spammed with Bible verses and meal photos was dead quiet. We learned through Jenna, a week later, that Greg had confronted Jim. At church. Apparently, in front of Pastor Tom, Jim had confessed. Linda had tried at first to spin it to cry, to blame stress and feeling unappreciated. Greg, to his credit, did not buy it. He moved in with Mark for a while. Talked to a lawyer. They started counseling. Linda tried to reach out to me once. She called while I was at work. Left a voicemail. "I hope you're happy," she said, voice thick. "You destroyed my marriage. Our family, over your own bitterness." I deleted it. I wasn't happy. There's nothing fun about watching a family implode. But I also wasn't responsible. Actions have consequences. Announcing someone's miscarriage in public. That's an action. So is cheating on your husband with the choir director. All I did was hold up a mirror. Daniel stopped playing peacekeeper. With therapy and time, he started to separate my mom from the person whose approval I need. One night months later, we sat on the couch with takeout. "I'm sorry," he said abruptly, "for letting her get away with so much." "You were raised to see her reactions as your responsibility," I said. "That's hard to unlearn." He nodded. "I should have shut her down the second she said wake up call," he said. "About the baby." I froze. "So did I," I said. Until I didn't. We looked at each other. "We'll do better for our kids one day," he said. I smiled a little sadly. "We will," I agreed. Do I regret reading those texts out loud? Sometimes, in the quiet moments, when I think about Linda crying in the kitchen. When I picture Greg's face crumpling as he put pieces together. I wish it hadn't come to that. I wish she'd respected our boundary when we told her, gently and privately, about the loss. I wish she'd kept our pain off the menu. But she didn't. She took our most vulnerable moment and turned it into a performance. She weaponized grief. Used God and family as props. And in that moment, I realized something important. Protecting her dignity at the expense of my own wasn't noble. It was enabling. My mother-in-law announced my miscarriage at dinner. So I read her secret affair text out loud, not because I wanted revenge for the baby we lost. Nothing could give that back. Because if she was going to drag skeletons out of closets, she needed to remember she had a few of her own. And because in that moment I chose myself, my voice, my right to decide how my story was told, even if it meant ending hers as perfect church mom forever.